All right, welcome to WASA Distance Education. This is MBF3C, Grade 11 College Prep Math. I'm Pete, I'm your teacher, and welcome. So here we are at Lesson 10, the last lesson in Unit 2. Just going to be at the midpoint of the course after this lesson. And we're actually going to shift gears just a little bit here in this lesson. We've been talking about loans and investments, and we're still going to be working about on loans and stuff, but we're going to be looking at the costs of purchasing vehicles, either new or used, and all the different costs involved in purchasing a vehicle. Okay, so when you look at a a new truck at the dealership, there's going to be a form on one of the windows that gives the options and the price of that vehicle. But that's not the whole story. The actual purchase price is going to be, it's going to include a lot of items that aren't on that sticker price, the sticker in the window. And knowing what to expect ahead of time will give you an advantage as a consumer, and it's just going to help you make informed decisions. And really, that's what this course is about, right? So we're going to first look at all of the different costs and fees in purchasing a new vehicle, and we're going to look at used vehicles, and that's we'll be able to make those decisions, right? And really knowing what the total cost of purchasing a vehicle is going to be, and being able to work it out ahead of time, that is the difference between having your new vehicle and having it parked because you don't have gas money for it because you didn't factor that in, or having your old vehicle broken down and you can't fix it because you didn't even think about how much parts were, right? So, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to kind of show you how to come up with the big picture, and not to discourage you, but just to kind of make sure that you think about all the costs, okay, when you're making these purchases. All right, but before we get started, let's find out who we have from Winneman this morning. Hi, who do we have on from Winneman?
Ernie.
Oh, hi, Ernie. How's it going?
Pretty good.
All right, so we're on Unit 2, Lesson 10, and we're going to look at the costs of purchasing vehicles, new and then used. All right. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So, can you mute your phone there, Ernie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, great. So now once we work through that, we're going to be done Unit 2, and then we're going to move on to Unit 3. So probably tomorrow, you're going to need your Unit 3 handout. So if you don't have it already, you need to ask the DEC to give you the Unit 3. If you're really stuck and you need it, just send me an email or contact me through Facebook, and I'll get it to you electronically at least. But really, your DEC should be able to give you a copy of Unit 3 for the MBF3C. So in our next unit, we're really going to switch gears. We're going to be doing a trigonometry and some geometry, and that's to me that's really the pretty classical math stuff. It's kind of fun. This lesson, though, is very practical, and this is why we're going through it. We want you to be sort of armed with some knowledge. If you're shopping for a nice truck, or if you're shopping for really any kind of vehicle, even an ATV, this is all going to be good information. So now, when you're shopping for a vehicle, there is some language that they use, and it's maybe not common everyday language that we, terms that we're familiar with. So let's take a look at some of the terms. This is page 29 of Unit 2. So, let's see here. So we have the manufacturer suggested retail price, MSRP, and that's really the so-called sticker price, right? And, depending on your negotiation skills, and how much selection you have, you may or may not be able to negotiate a lower price. Usually you can go a little lower, and it's kind of expected that they'll go a little lower. One thing that people will say, oh, go buy your car in in Manitoba. It's cheaper, right? But you have to. It may be true, but you also have to keep in mind the cost of traveling there and back and staying there and et cetera, et cetera. So it's knowing the whole cost of things is kind of very helpful. Now there's a freight charge very often, and it's sort of a flat rate fee. They usually charge about $800 or $900. They might charge a little more in the north, but for the most part, they kind of I think they just kind of average it out and just charge a flat fee. There's a tire tax, and they will also charge you. Excuse me. They charge you tax on the spare tire as well, so don't be surprised if they're multiplying by 5 rather than 4. And there's a gas tax. Basically, the government charges a gas guzzler tax on any vehicle pretty much bigger than a lawnmower, I think. It's the point is in any vehicle we would use in the north, you're going to have that tax just because we use bigger vehicles because we have to. So maybe not very fair, but that's what they do. And then sometimes there's administration fees, which can kind of be, if you think about it, you're buying a vehicle from them, you're paying $30, $40, $50,000, and then they want to charge you $20 to fill out all the paperwork. On the other hand, the license plate fee is reasonable because that's if you went to the ministry yourself, you'd have to pay a fee to get that license plate, and you'd have to fill out a bunch of paperwork. So that one I sort of can understand. And then this one is another kind of a strange thing, but it's sort of understandable. Basically, they're going to fill up your truck. Maybe they'll give you a quarter tank, maybe they'll give you half a tank, but they'll usually charge you for that gas. Sometimes you can negotiate that, especially if you're going to pick up your vehicle and then say drive back up to Winter Road. You probably want a full tank, but you don't necessarily want to pay the full dealer price for a full tank. So you might be able to negotiate that a little bit. And then this lien payout is something where if you're trading in your old truck or old car or something, and you still owe money on it, then they're going to charge you they'll probably roll that into the new loan. If you still owe $2,000 or $3,000 on it, then they would roll that in. Okay, so whoops. Okay, I think that's pretty. Those are pretty much all the charges. And now there's this thing. Okay, there's a few more terms that we're going to do. We're going to look at deal reviews in detail. And basically, it's just a summary, a snapshot of every little bit involved in purchasing the vehicle. So all the costs, so that this is something that they're going to show you near the end, anyway. And then a manufacturer's rebate. Sometimes you can get cash back or money off of your vehicle for different reasons. A good example is, I took some courses and I graduated. I just graduated from school, even though I was a little older. I got a second degree or whatever, and I actually got $500 off of a truck just because of that. So that can happen sometimes. Or you can get some money off if, it depends on different things. If you have a certain type of credit card or, there's different reasons you get money off. Maybe repeat buyer discount. If this is your second GM truck, maybe you can get $500 off. So they'll give you some money, and very often the money is deducted right from the purchase price. Okay. The other way it can happen is that they can send you a check later on. Manufacturer's rebate. Okay. Now here's a term we're going to use a bit in this lesson, and it's a depreciation, or it depreciates, and that's really the when we purchase a vehicle, they say that when you drive off the lot, it loses 30% of its value. I don't know if that's exactly true, but it does depreciate, and that's the technical term for every year we say that the vehicle reduces its value a little bit, and you can actually calculate that, and that's what dealers use when you bring your old truck in. They actually use a calculation based on your vehicle's make and model and year, and then its condition, and they can actually come up with an accurate number for what its value is at that particular moment. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this lesson. So let's look at the math behind this. When we're financing a vehicle, we're going to use this. This is the annuity formula where we have a monthly payment. Okay, and we have a this is our loan basically. Okay, so we have a loan amount, and then we have an interest rate and a time compounding period, and then we're going to come out with a monthly payment. Okay. A lot of buyers are sensitive to the monthly payment, and that's in a way, you really need to be sensitive to the whole picture. You have to have an idea of how much you want to pay for your vehicle. You know, a few years ago, I had actually a different course, but kind of a similar thing where my students went online, and high school students, and they decided on a truck they wanted to buy, and then they were going to work out how much their payments were going to be. Well, one young man, he had so many options on his truck. It was $80,000, and his payments were just outrageous, way more money than he could possibly make. But that's the thing, right? He just didn't really focus on, whether it's affordable or not, and whether it met his needs. It met all his wants, for sure, every single one of them, but not necessarily his needs. So this is where having an idea of the total cost of it, plus how much you can afford to spend, that'll give you an idea of what you're looking for. Now, they talk about the advantages and disadvantages of buying a new vehicle. Okay, so of course, the advantages of buying a new vehicle are usually it comes with a warranty, quite a good warranty, and so that's good. So you can actually look at your monthly payment as pretty much the total cost of ownership, right? You might have to put some oil in it. You might have to, put some winter tires on it or something. But basically, your monthly payment is pretty much for the first few years until that warranty runs out. It's pretty much your cost of ownership. Plus, you have to pay insurance and gas and stuff. But you also have to, if you're planning to take your vehicle up to the community, you have to keep in mind it might be kind of tricky to get it back for warranty service if something goes wrong with it. So there's, some we all have to kind of look at our own situation. And then, of course, the cost of the vehicle is the base price, and I think I just was talking about that. There's options. You can get the premium sound system, right, which, a sunroof, a spoiler, air conditioning, and all of these things, really, it's up to the individual, right? Like, no one can look at you and say, you don't need the premium sound system, right? If you're going up and down the winter road and you have a family or whatever, you might want to have some music for that long trip, and it might be really important to you. So you get the premium sound system. So it's a very individual thing, and really you have to know what your circumstances are to decide on these things. Okay, so here's an example of how we work out the math on these things. So it says a car costs $21,500. So that's a car, obviously, not a truck, and it might be a very small car. How much will it cost, including 15% taxes? Now I don't know where they get the 15%. This is probably old, and they were probably thinking about the old GST and PST. But anyway, let's work it out. Let's say there's 15% in taxes on it, because that's one thing that you'll see when you're looking at all these prices. It doesn't include any GST, which there's going to be, okay, on your vehicle. So we know how to calculate 15% of something, and we just take the price times 0.15. and then we're going to come up with that amount of money. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, okay. I was just going to talk about this very thing that they have in the bubble here on page, what are we on, page 30. In the bubble here, they talk about a quick way. If all you need is the total, you don't need the actual amount of the tax, you just skip this first step, and instead of multiplying by the tax rate, you multiply by 1 point whatever the tax rate is, right? So if it was 13%, it would be 1.13, and then you get the total rate away. And basically what this means is that you're finding 115% of the price, which is 100%, which is the price, plus the 15%, which is the tax. Okay, so it's just a little shortcut that you can do to skip a line, and you can only use that if they're not asking for the actual amount of taxes. Otherwise, you'll end up having to do an extra calculation anyway. So you'll notice now that $21,000 $500 car, before we've even done anything, and that's just the GST basically on it, or the HST, is now $24,725. So there's something that if you weren't, if you didn't know this now before, now you do, that when you go into a dealer, whatever price you see in that sticker, it's going to be quite a bit more. Okay. So when you're shopping for a car, you have to have an idea of what the bottom line is for you. So here's another example. So they're going to give us a little discount, I think. So at the end of 2004, that was a long time ago, they're clearing out any unsold new vehicles by advertising 10% off. So there's your new car, $18,930. How much is the car before taxes? Okay, so again, we could find out what 10% of that purchase price was and then subtract it. But the other way to do it is just find 90% of the original value. So you find 90%, and 90% divided by 100 to turn it into a decimal is 0.90. It's 0.9, but if we're calculating 90%, this is one of those rare cases where it actually makes sense to include the 0 at the end. Even though mathematically it doesn't do anything for us, it tells the reader what we're doing. We're taking 0.90 or 90% of that value. Sorry, of this value. And so there you go. There's your car, the price of your car before taxes. But of course, then they're going to turn around and put the extra 13% on top of that in taxes. So that's part of the cost, but there are quite a few other costs involved. And let's take a look at a more realistic example. This is page 31 of your Unit 2. This is page 31. It's the last lesson in Unit 2. So I'm just going to pause for a second here. Okay, Devin. Hi, Devin. How's it going? I hope you're able to follow along. Okay. So, yeah. So if you ever have any questions about these lessons, you can message me on Facebook. Okay, use the private message function of Facebook to message me. Now, I won't get a notice about it unless we're friends. So, you can friend me. I won't post anything other than just kind of math stuff and stuff related to the course. Okay, I'm not really using it for anything other than just the course. Okay, so here we go, top of page 31 then. Oops, sorry about that. In example 3. So it says Liam purchases a new car with an MSRP. We know now that means manufacturer's suggested retail price. No one ever pays that, but anyway, I think we're going to have him actually. Looks like he did pay it. Oh well. $27,600. Again, I don't know if I probably mentioned this before, but the new way of formatting numbers puts a space between the groups of 3 digits. A lot of us grew up with a comma there, and it's perfectly acceptable to do either one. So MSRP of $27,600. He negotiates a discount of $700. Okay. Oh, okay. So he pays below MSRP. Liam pays these additional costs, and these are pretty typical. $750 freight, $100 tire tax. Okay, and it looks like that's the total. So we're assuming it's $20 per tire. Because there's 5 tires, right, including the spare. A $75 gas tax. That's not a gas tax, it's a gas guzzler tax or a fuel efficiency tax. And as I mentioned before, it's pretty much any vehicle, the sort of vehicle you can drive in like downtown Toronto, little tiny car that maybe fits you and one of your young cousins or something. That doesn't you don't pay the tax, but any vehicle we would drive in the north probably going to have that tax on it. It just has to do with fuel efficiency. And then an $80 administration fee, $74 license plate fee, and a $20 gas fee. That's for probably a couple of liters of gas. He doesn't have a vehicle to trade in. Wow, this is a long deal. But he does make a down payment. This is important of $1,500 and finances the rest through the dealership at 4.9% compounded monthly. That's 12 per year for 48 months. That's not so bad. That's 4 years, right? Okay, it's pretty typical car deal. And then the finance fee is $52. So that's something that's sort of adding insult to injury. Basically, they make you pay a fee to have them check your credit rating and process the paperwork. By the way, your bank probably won't charge you that fee, but they might give you a higher interest rate. So, there's pluses and minuses to checking with your bank too. So it says complete a deal review for Liam's purchase. Now, I'm going to kind of skip to the punchline of this problem, and I'm going to show you what the deal review looks like, because they're going to go through the steps. But really, what you're doing is you're filling out this table right here, which is on page 32. This is the deal review, and you're basically just going to fill out this table right here. Okay. So let's take a look at the steps. If you go through all these steps each and every time, you'll be fine, right? So the first thing is we want the actual purchase price, okay? So the purchase price is what he's actually going to pay for the vehicle. So the MSRP is that, but he got a discount, so this is the price that he's actually going to pay for the vehicle, okay? Now, the taxable total, okay, you have to watch it in these types of questions, because sometimes they'll tell you that certain things are taxable and certain things aren't. But in this case, it looks like they've included everything, all the costs that will be taxed, added together. It makes more sense to add everything that's taxable and then calculate the tax on that total. It's less calculations, fewer calculations. So here's what we did. We took the purchase price, and then we went through all of the things. That's the freight charge, that's the tire tax, that's the gas guzzler tax. What was the $80 for? Administration fee, and then the minus to zero is the trade-in. So they actually give you the template right here. And again, if you're trying to solve these key questions and you're a little concerned you're gonna miss this, it's on page 31. But you always take a picture of this with your phone. Maybe take 2 pictures: the first 3 steps and the second 3 steps, and then you'll have it handy. So you add that up, and that's now the total that you're going to pay, and it's actually pretty much what you're going to have to come up with to get the vehicle. So all of that has 13%. Now they've gotten it right. That's the GST, or the HST rate there, and that's really what we should have done in the last question where it said 15. So it's HST, and they actually calculate the tax separately, so that's kind of interesting. And I think it's because that's a separate item in the deal review. Let's take a look at the deal review. See if the tax. Yeah, okay, well, you see, this is the thing. They have the tire tax and the gas tax Oh, okay. No, those are the fees, and then the taxable total. Okay, and this is why we had to calculate to tax separately. So we can't use our shortcut. Now, here's a couple of things that aren't taxed. So the license plate isn't taxed. The gas fee, because gas already has tax in it. The lien payout. So these things are not taxed, and that's why um, it's we have that separate section of the deal review. So really, if you just fill in each one of these boxes, you really can't go wrong with these deal review things. Maybe, yeah, maybe take a picture of that, and that might help you. Oops, like that. Okay. Um, Keeping in mind that something like the trade-in allowance, all of these other ones are you're adding, but the trade-in allowance should actually be something you subtract. Okay. Okay. So where are we? So we got the HST. We needed that, and now we're going to calculate the delivery price. That's the price that the person pays. So if you were to pay cash and you wanted to buy it with cash, that's how much cash you'd have to bring to the dealership. Or if you were paying it out, with a cashier's check, that's how much you'd go to the bank. You get a cashier's check for this amount of money. All right. So taxable total plus taxes plus license plate fee plus gas fee minus lien payout. Okay. So, and there is no lien payout there. Minus lien payout. Hmm. It seems like it should be. Well, anyway, we'll see some examples where they're including a lien payout, and we'll be able to see how to treat that properly. Um, okay. So, okay. I think that's the amount of. Anyway, we'll take a look at some examples that include a lien payout. So we crank all those through our calculator, and that's our delivery price. So that's what you'd bring a check for. Now, if you are financing, then it's going to be the delivery price minus any manufacturer's rebate, which doesn't factor into the tax calculations, minus any down payment, which is in this case, he had $1,500 down payment. And of course, there's a finance fee of $35, which is added to your price. And there was no, um, what was it? There was something on, what was the zero? The manufacturer's rebate? Oh, okay. In this case, there was no manufacturer's rebate. Okay. So now we got it whittled down to that. If the person was making a loan, that's how much they would need a loan for. Okay. So now we can figure out how much their monthly payment's going to be because we have all of the details of it, right? It's our N is it's 4.9%. Or sorry, our I is 4.9%, and it's monthly. And our N value is 48 months. They just gave it to us. We didn't have to work it out. Okay, so you can put all that into the calculations, and it's $691 a month. That seems kind of high, but most people would pay something like that bi-weekly, and it is a lot. It was about $350 every pay. Okay, but if you need something like that to get around, if you need it to get to work, if you need it to get to school, you need it to bring your kids around, well, you need it, right? And that's why you make a loan for something like that. So now we have all of those numbers, but in order to keep them straight, we're going to just put them on the deal review form, and that's really what we're doing here with these questions. So all the rest of the questions, we're just going to stick them on this deal review form. Okay. Okay. So we'll try a few of these support questions, and so far we haven't been asked to do any deal reviews, but well, we can try a few of these. Okay. So let's have a look here. I just want to see if we have the unit. Let's see if they give us the deal review for question 3, because that's kind of important actually. Ah, yes. Okay. So there's Patty's deal review. So if you wanted to see what one was like, where um, they had a, does she have a? Okay. So there's an example of one for support question 3. That would be a good one to go through on your own. Make sure, because they have the deal review form there all filled out. Okay. All right. So, something like question 1, where it's basically you given the base price, plus the options, and then including taxes. So that should be we're gonna go with 13% there. So if you're solving something like that and you're looking at the back and the answer is a little higher than what you were expecting, it's probably that they're using 15%. I see that they did it once here, so just keep that in mind if you're checking those answers. If you do so many support questions and your answer doesn't match the back, or if you have any question about them, just let me know and I can do them in class, um, and show you how it works. All right, so those are support questions. We'll just leave those right now because we're going to look at some other parts of this, which is the other thing a lot of people consider is buying a used vehicle, right? Now, there are some advantages to a used vehicle. Usually they're a little cheaper, and there's quite a few fees that you don't have to pay. Usually you don't pay the freight charge, you don't have the gas guzzler tax or the tire tax. Um, and I think there's also one tax, we'll have to take a look, that they don't charge as well. Now, of course, the disadvantage is, maybe it doesn't have the same warranty, maybe it doesn't have any warranty. Maybe there's some parts that are starting to wear out. So there are some risks to buying a used vehicle, but it depends on your circumstances, right? If you're good at fixing vehicles, might be a really good bargain, or if you know someone that's good, or if you have a good mechanic. Um, so now, when you're buying a used vehicle, they call it the resale value of the vehicle. And again, that's something that if you go to a dealer, a used car dealer, it's not like they just kind of look at it and it looks shiny, so they slap a price on it. They actually have a way of looking at the make and the model and the year and the condition of the vehicle and coming up with a very good idea of what the value of it would be. Okay, so when you're if you're shopping for a 2010 Ford F-150, whether you shop for it here, or in Sulaco or in Dryden, or if you go to Manitoba, chances are that the price that you're asking for an equivalent vehicle is going to be pretty close. So here's the formula that we use. It's a little bit different. It's so the V is the resale value. So it's V equals P, which is the MSRP. So this is the depreciation formula basically that they're using. Okay. So it's the MSRP in dollars is the P. The R is the annual depreciation rate written as a decimal. So like it might be 10% a year or 20% a year. This is where they say when you drive it off the lot, it goes down 20%. And N is the age of the car in years. Okay. So, and that number really depends on a lot of things. It depends on, first, early on, it depends really just on the manufacturer, right? But as the vehicle ages, more data is accumulated. If there was a batch of F-150s that had some problems, then it's probably going to have a higher depreciation value for that particular make and model. Or if there's a batch that's known to just go forever, then it'll have a lower depreciation rate. Okay, I think Ford is having an issue right now, or one issue. Ford is having a big question because they've just come out with their new aluminum aluminum chassis F-150, and so it's supposed to be lighter, and so it'll be a much better for gas mileage. But nobody knows what this number is going to be, right? Because nobody really knows how well the aluminum parts are going to hold up. over time. So that's really a big question mark right now. And is it going to be worth the same as the older Fords a couple of years after you've owned it, right? And that's the thing about buying used vehicles. Sometimes it's good because you have a sense of, you can look at how that vehicle has held up over the years. Okay. All right, well, here's the example. Car has an MSRP of 23,500. So that's when it was new. Okay, that's not what it is right now. You're looking at it, it's on the dealer's lot, and it's 5 years later. Or you're looking at a new vehicle and you're thinking you're going to keep it for 5 years, and you want to see how much you're going to be able to get for it after the 5 years to buy your next one, right? So there's a lot of different scenarios when you would use this. So you're going to use the resale formula, and it's just, this one is pretty straightforward. This R value, okay, this is wrong here. Sorry, this should be a little r, little n. Yeah, they shouldn't. It's probably an autocorrect, this word sometimes, if you have a letter. It doesn't know that you're typing math, so it changes it. So anyway, so this is your R is 16, and where they get that number, it's 16%, and they've just changed 16 into a decimal. All right, so we're just going to plug everything into our formula here. I think they've done it pretty much the same way I would do it. I would say that that's a dollar sign. Okay, that doesn't look like a dollar sign. And then you just run it through your. It's very similar to the compound interest formula, but we're actually doing it kind of backwards now. Okay, so it's a 1 minus, not 1 plus. Watch that. Okay, so now after 5 years, then the vehicle is worth $9,827. So that's something, though, right? So in that sense, vehicles are different than, say, your TV, right? You buy your TV, you watch it for 10 years, 8 years, and then it breaks down, and then you throw it out and you buy a new one, right? You don't try and sell usually don't try and sell your used TV. You just use it until it wears out, right? Whereas a vehicle actually has some value, and it's one of our most valuable assets for most of us, next to, say, a house, if we have a house, right? If we don't have a house, if we're renters, in a lot of cases, the car could actually be worth more than anything, okay? Or the truck. Now, here's an example here. A 3-year-old car is worth 15,750. The next year, it's worth 11,800. By what percent has the value of the car depreciated? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find out what percent 11,800 is of 15,000, right? So the way I do this, I think they're probably going to show you this. We need to know a percent here. So for me, I think it's going to be something like, whoops. So if I, that was funny. What? Okay. Okay. Okay, I think someone's going to come in here and just take that eraser right away from me. Tell me I can't use it anymore. Okay, I think I got this. I'm going to try here. So I'm just going to do this very calculation right. I'm just going to do this very calculation that they are doing right here. So we end up with a number, but then we need to know what percent is that of 15,000, right? So 3,9 divided by 15,750 times 100. Okay, that's how I would do that calculation. So 3,950 divided by 1,5,750 times 100. And so I got, basically rounding it off, it's 25%. That's what I got. And so I'm just finding out what percent this number is of that number. Okay. Okay, so they were, they didn't round to units, they just kept 2 digits of precision, which is amazing. Yeah, about 25%. Okay. Okay, so wow, they did the same calculation as I did. In case you're wondering where this comes from, right? If you really, the actual algebra there is if you let x be the percent depreciation, x over 100 equals 3,950 over 15,750. That's the actual equation you're solving there. If you just to kind of um, bring your mind way back to Unit 1, that's the equation we're solving. And so you see that we just multiply both sides by 100, and that's how we end up with x by itself. And that's what this is over here. All right. So let's talk about the support questions, and they're probably going to ask you something like this in the key questions, like support question 4. They might ask you that on a final exam too. What are two advantages and two disadvantages of buying a used vehicle versus a new vehicle? Now, I want to spend a moment to talk about a question like that because a lot of students, they see something like that and they go, I don't know. And they don't answer it. And usually these are worth 3 or 4 marks in the key questions. And so you're losing a lot of marks just for something like that. What we want you to do for something like that, if you read through the course material, listen to the class, and you don't quite get that, we really want you to ask someone, or someone who bought a new truck. Say, hey, why'd you buy a new truck? Why didn't you buy a used one? And then they'll tell you, and then you can just go write their answers down, right? Or why wouldn't you? Or if someone bought a used vehicle, why did you buy that used vehicle? So what are two advantages and two disadvantages of buying used vehicles? So advantages, disadvantages. Okay, so that's one way to structure it. Remember, you're looking for two, right? So you can make yourself two boxes here. Okay, so what are some advantages to buying a used vehicle? Remember, right? Yeah, maybe it's cheaper, right? Is that right? Maybe it's cheaper. Okay, disadvantage. Maybe it has more maintenance. Okay, maybe you're going to have to change the alternator. Maybe you're going to have to change the brakes, right? Maybe the wheel bearings are starting to go, right? So, there's more maintenance in an older vehicle just because parts wear out. Okay. What are some other disadvantages of buying a used vehicle, right? There's no warranty. Warranty. Why? Okay. Well, anyway, right? Maybe there's no warranty. Maybe there is, but it's a shorter warranty, right? Maybe it's only 90 days. Maybe it doesn't cover big items, right? It's hard to say, right? And new vehicle warranties are really good these days. They weren't always just good. I years ago I bought a brand new car. I'll tell you what it was, a Ford Mustang, brand new car. Within the first month, I had a taillight burnout, and the sending unit on the gas tank, the thing that tells you how much gas you have in it, it failed. Neither of those parts was under warranty back then because they didn't cover electrical, period. So I had to pay it was quite a lot of money to get that gas tank thing fixed because they had to take the gas tank out, drain it. It was really expensive. So, but now they cover it bumper to bumper warranty, 5 years or 4 years or whatever it is. So every little thing, including the bulb. Now, of course, it doesn't help you if your car's up in Winneman, right, or your truck. Okay, and so you have to come up with another advantage of buying a used vehicle, right? Maybe you like the look of used vehicles, right? Maybe you know the reliability history of used vehicles, right? There's a lot of reasons you could put in there. But this is what we're looking for in a question like this. So it's quite a bit more thinking, less calculating. Okay, but trying to answer those questions, it's really kind of important for me to kind of see how you're absorbing the course material, how you're kind of doing with it, that type of question, just as much as some of the math type questions. So give that a good try, and if you're having some problems answering a question like that, give me a call or talk to me on Facebook or email me, okay? Now it says determine the resale value of a 2-year-old car with an MSRP of this and an annual depreciation rate of 20%. Okay, so that one we can work out using our formula on this depreciation formula. You're just going to plug everything in, and you should be able to work that out. Okay. All right. So let's just take a look now at vehicle costs, and there's a little bit more. We might actually have to pick that up. Well, I think we'll see. We'll do a few more examples for sure tomorrow. But let's take a look on page 34. So in addition to your monthly payments, when you're buying a vehicle, there's more stuff we have to consider. Okay. And there's really two types. There's the fixed costs and then the variable costs. And that's really the big thing about new versus used. When you're buying new, most of your costs for your vehicle are here and very little in the variable costs. When you're buying used, it's the other way around. Lower fixed costs, but much higher variable costs, right? So let's take a look. So fixed costs are the things like insurance and your licensing, right? Your payment, your regular monthly payment, and it really doesn't depend on how the vehicle is used, right? You're going up and down the winter road. Your monthly payment's going to be the same. Your insurance, check with your insurance company to make sure that you are insured for the winter road, or at least you know you're not. And then the licensing, whatever you have to pay. And then the variable costs, those are things that you really can't do much about. Well, gas, you can drive less, right? Repairs and maintenance, okay, especially an older vehicle, you don't know, right? You're driving along and it suddenly starts making a noise and lights come on, and that's just something that can happen pretty much any time. Okay. You can, of course, minimize that by doing regular repairs, bringing it to a mechanic, have them look it over, but there's no guarantees, right? Now, fuel consumption, it says with rising gas prices, but really, because of the vast distances that we have to travel, we always have to consider fuel consumption when we're in the north. I mean, I think it cost me over $15 to go to Dryden in my vehicle, and that's something I factor into the number of trips I go there, right? I basically have to be able to buy stuff in Dryden, buy my groceries, buy my clothes, to save $15 to make the trip worth it, right? Or at least to make it not sting so much. So it's always something to keep in mind when we're driving in the north. Now, when you do fuel consumption rates, it's in the modern way of doing it is liters per 100 kilometers. It used to be miles per gallon, which is backwards, right? So miles per gallon is the bigger the number, the better, right there. But for liters per 100 kilometers, actually, the lower the number, the better. And the reason it's liters per 100 kilometers and not liters per kilometer, you'll see when we start working with these numbers, is just that if it was liters per kilometer, it would be tiny, very tiny numbers is we'd end up with. So they do liters per 100 kilometers, and then we end up with some sort of normal looking numbers. We don't have to have a lot of zeros in them. So it says here, Doug estimates that he drives 30,000 kilometers per year, and the average cost of fuel was $82 or 82 cents per liter. Now be careful here, because sometimes they will write it that way, and then sometimes they'll write it as I'll just do 82 cents per liter. So do be careful, because when you're given it that way, you have to divide that by 100 to come up with dollars per liter. So just watch that. So we're going to do this example. What are the estimated fuel costs for the year? So I'm going to extend the page here. All right, we got 5 minutes. I can do this question. We'll do a few more example questions tomorrow. So what we're going to do then, he gets this many liters per kilometer. So the thing we have to do is find out the fuel used per year. Okay, and that's always going to be the first step when we're doing fuel consumption, and that's something that students sometimes forget. They go right to the cost without actually working out the amount of fuel. We need to know how many liters of fuel good old Doug used to drive 30,000 kilometers. Now, sometimes the question will be just on a particular trip. They'll give you a certain distance. In this case, it's a whole year. So it's 30,000 kilometers times 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, you'll see this done in a couple of different ways in the course text. Usually they work out this fraction first and then use that to multiply by the distance, but this works perfectly fine. Okay, what you do is you multiply this number by that number, and then you do the division. You divide the result by 100. Okay, so here we go. So it's 30,000 kilometers, 30,000 times 6.2 divided by 100. Okay, and I get 1,860. Now, what are our units going to be? Our units are going to be liters because the kilometers actually cancel. Okay, and so the only units we're left with is liters. Now, if you went to school, maybe not recently, but a little while ago, you may be wondering why I'm using capital L for liters. Just to remind you that years ago, it was a little L for liters, which is written in a couple of different ways. They used to use little l, and what we realized was that, especially that way of writing little l, which is very common, it was very confusing to be mixed in with a number. So the international standards people decided we're going to use capital L for liters. So, and that's what it is. So if you want to write a little l, it's curvy like that, perfectly fine by me, but as long as I can tell it's not a 1. So we've gotten this far. We got to do one more thing, and then that'll be it for today. We have to then find out how much it's going to cost. So now we have 1,860 liters, and his price is 82 cents a liter. So let's do it. That's 860 times 0.82. Now we didn't have to change that into dollars, but we should have if it was given to us in cents, because otherwise we'd end up with a certain number of cents, which is not what you want. So it's 1860 times 0.82. And so now we have the price $1,525.20 per year. Okay, so Doug will spend $1,525.20 to drive his vehicle that has that particular gas rating at that price. And we know that that's way low for our part of the world. So by knowing that, now if he's thinking about buying that vehicle, he can work out what his monthly payment's going to be, right? What his maintenance costs going to be. We'll talk about that. And what his fuel costs are going to be. That's, it's $150 a month. Actually, it's $175 a month. He's got a budget for that. And that's the difference. Knowing that in advance is the difference between having a vehicle and driving it around or having it parked in your yard because you don't have any money for gas. Okay, so, and that's why we're going through this. Okay, let's wrap this up. Do bring your Unit 3 tomorrow. We'll do a few more examples, but we will definitely get into Unit 3, geometry, trigonometry, and it'll be a different thing. All right, thanks for joining us. Talk to you tomorrow.